The Pats' red zone offense is a problem and has become a bigger problem lately. Find out what's gone wrong and what needs to improve. This is Locked On Patriots.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening? I am your host, Nick Cattles, born and raised in New England, been covering the Pats for the past 16 years. Also the co-host of the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles and a sports radio veteran. Welcome to Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. On today's episode, we look back at the offseason and how the Pats did everything right by their young quarterback. Also, not only have fans changed their expectations about this team, so has a very important person. We'll tell you who. But first, it's time for a red zone offense autopsy. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. It has been a terrific season to this point for the Patriots. I don't think anybody would argue that. 11-2, now the 2 seed in the AFC after Denver beat Vegas on Sunday. But still, who's going to argue with the results? 11-2. With that said, we can all agree that this football team, as fun as it's been, as successful as they have been so far this year, they are not a flawless team. And a big concern lately has been the red zone offense. Just go back to the Cincinnati game where you had several shots from the 1-yard line and you could not find pay dirt. You look at this Patriots red zone offense heading into week 14, they were 24th in the NFL. 51.06% of the time when they get in the red zone, they score a touchdown. Let's put it simply, it's pretty much a flip of the coin for this Patriots offense when they get into the red area, whether it's going to be a field goal or, of course, a touchdown. And we can also throw a couple of turnovers in there as well, which we'll talk about a little bit later. What's fascinating is that other good teams, other good offenses are actually below the Patriots in red zone offense. But there are caveats. You can look at Tampa walking into week 14 as the 25th best red zone offense, converting 50% of the time in touchdowns. But of course, you look at Tampa and you say a ton of injuries on that side of the ball, and they have a new offensive coordinator, a first-time play caller at the NFL level. The Baltimore Ravens walked into Sunday as the 30th red zone offense in football, converting 46.51% of the time in touchdowns. But Lamar Jackson has been unhealthy. He's missed a few games, and Derrick Henry, for the most part, has gone MIA. Then you look at the Houston Texans, 31st in red zone offense in the NFL, converting only 43.59% of the time before Sunday night's game against the Kansas City Chiefs. And you can look at that and say, well, CJ Stroud has missed a couple of games, and they have a first-time play caller at the NFL level in Nick Caley. The Patriots with Josh McDaniels, Drake Maye, the way he's playing football, being pretty much healthy at the skill position so far. You lost Rhamondre Stevenson for a couple of weeks, but you look around and you say, you have all the pieces to be a successful, if not very successful, red zone offense. So what in the world is going wrong? Let's start here with number one, the blocking. The blocking has not been good enough. It has not been consistent enough. I have seen a number of just blown blocks in the red zone from this offensive line. Mike Vrabel, before the last couple of weeks, which I've talked about, he has really improved. He's really come on. I think Michael Vrabel has been really good the past month or so of this season. But you go back the first 8 or 9 weeks, and it was almost every single game he was blowing a block at a crucial moment, including inside the red zone. You just can't have it. You can't have missed assignments when somebody just doesn't know who they're supposed to block and when they're supposed to block that guy. You can look at the fullback position. We can put that in air quotes because Jack Westover, who is a natural tight end, has been shoehorned in at the fullback position, and you have not gotten consistent blocking from him ahead of the running backs. And you also look at the interior offensive line. We talked about Mike Vrabel, but Garrett Bradbury, Jared Wilson, they're not the biggest dudes on the football field. And so when they go against bigger guys and you're going against goal line defenses, it gets tougher for those smaller offensive linemen to hold their water. So the blocking has not been consistently good enough to drive into the end zone. That's been a major issue. A second issue is execution. I'll give you an example. Kayshon Boutte, you go back a week or two ago. Kayshon Boutte, there's a play call where he's supposed to come across the offensive line and make a block, and he's just completely lost. He has no idea what his responsibility is. He doesn't block anybody, and because he completely whiffs, maybe not even attempts a block, the play fails. That's a lack of execution. TreVeyon Henderson is open in the flat against the New York Giants on Monday night. Drake Maye, he doesn't make a good enough throw. He throws it low, and he throws it somewhat behind TreVeyon Henderson, and because you don't execute that pass with perfection, TreVeyon Henderson gets tackled. If you make that throw a better throw, TreVeyon Henderson likely walks into the end zone, or at least has a chance to get it to the goal line if he just makes one guy miss. Lack of execution. Rhamondre Stevenson, TreVeyon Henderson, they have both had fumbles inside the red zone. They've both had fumbles inside the 5. That is a lack of execution. You've got to take care of the football. Mac Hollins gets called for an offensive pass interference in the end zone going back a couple weeks ago. That is a lack of execution. If you run that play correctly, you get a touchdown. So the lack of consistent good blocking, the lack of execution, and we also have to look at Drake Maye. I feel like this is one of the last, maybe even the last obstacle that Drake Maye has to get past to become as good as he can become. And of course, he's going to continue to develop. He's going to continue to get better. But if you look at something and say, well, that is a weakness of Drake Maye's, I would say his red zone play has been a weakness. And this happens to a lot of young quarterbacks. A lot of times, the last thing they truly figure out is how to be decisive and make the right read, make the right play inside that red area. And we've seen Drake Maye have some issues. The red zone, of course, when you're talking about playing in that condensed area, you have tighter windows and your timing needs to be more precise. And there's no better example of this than going back a couple weeks ago against the Cincinnati Bengals when Drake Maye is on the bootleg action and he has Hunter Henry for a touchdown, but he doesn't throw it. And then he has Hunter Henry again for a touchdown, but he waits a beat too long. Hunter Henry's defender, the linebacker, falls in the back end of the end zone. And that play is there. If Drake Maye releases it right then and there, it's a touchdown to Hunter Henry. He waits just a beat too long. Linebacker gets back up, gets back into the play, pass breakup, no touchdown. So it's going to come for Drake Maye. I'm not concerned whatsoever, but we are fair. We look at this objectively, and Drake Maye at times has not been as decisive as he needs to be in the red zone. Get it out quickly. There was another play going back a number of weeks ago where Mac Hollins is open on a pop play, so to speak. Right after the snap, it's there. But for whatever reason, Drake Maye doesn't want to make the throw. So some of it is on the quarterback, and some of it is on the play calling and Josh McDaniels. I don't know if Josh McDaniels, I think this could be the case. I don't know if he's trying to save Drake Maye as a weapon in the red zone with his legs until later in the season or when they get into the playoffs, because there's no doubt that Drake Maye could be utilized as a runner more often inside the red area as he has been this year. So maybe it's just waiting and they don't want to go to the back pocket just yet. But at some point, they've got to. They've got to use Drake Maye's legs more in the red zone against defenses. I also think that Josh McDaniels has called too many inside runs at times, and it is borderline stubborn how he approaches it. Again, it's not all the time, but at times we've seen that. And there's just really a lack of identity. It feels like the Patriots want to be a big, bruising, run downhill red zone offense, but they just don't have the Jimmies and Joes to consistently execute that type of offense in that part of the field. So all of these things, I'm sure, have been addressed during the bye week, and I'm sure some of these things will get better, but it's been the blocking, it's been the execution, it's been the quarterback, it's been the play calling, and it all hasn't been every single time you get down there. It's not like Drake Maye is not finding the open man or being hesitant every single time he's down in the red area, but you start combining these different factors where on first down, the block isn't there. On second down, Maye might be a little bit too late to pull the trigger. On third down, maybe it's not the greatest play call. And you start combining all of these different factors, and what you have is one of the worst red zone offenses in football, which should not be the case with the talent and the offensive coordinator. It just shouldn't. All right, the most important person has changed their expectations for this team. Find out who next. This is Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories. Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it, so when someone plugs it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. And who would want a gift like this? Well, grandparents, parents, newlyweds, anyone who loves photos. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames by using promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code LOCKEDON. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in on time for the holidays. Support the show also by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Don't forget auraframes.com. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. That's right. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Patriots with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 for the year. Go to https://lockedonpatriots.supercast.com/ or check the link in the show notes to learn more. And don't forget, if you're watching us on YouTube, to hit that thumbs up, like the podcast, continue to help us with the algorithm. Don't forget to throw a comment in. Are you frustrated with the red zone offense? I think you are, but maybe you're not. And don't forget to subscribe, as we are now at 7,750 subscribers or so. That goal of 8,000 subs is right there waiting for us. Hopefully we get there within the next couple of weeks. The preseason prediction that you heard from yours truly was that the Patriots would win 9 games and that their ceiling was 11 wins. And what I meant by ceiling, I meant, well, if they were healthy, if Drake Maye made a significant leap in year 2, and, you know, if other things kind of unfolded the way you hoped they would fall from, you know, week in and week out. So 9 wins, a ceiling of 11 wins, depending on how things unfolded, how healthy the team was, how big of a leap, if a leap was made by Drake Maye. But it wasn't just me, and it wasn't just other pundits talking about the Patriots winning 9 games, maybe with a ceiling of 11. Even Mike Vrabel pumped the brakes before the year. I go back to August 24th. This is from Mike Reese, and it was after the Giants preseason game. Here's what Vrabel had to say. Quote, "There's glimpses of football the way we'd like to play it." Here's the money quote. "We are so far from being where we need to be. We are so far from being where we need to be." That was August 24th. Mike Vrabel continued, "I'm really trying to get that message across, stringing one good day together and putting another day together," unquote. Then you get to last week. Then you get back to, last week after the Giants win. Slightly confusing. Giants preseason game. This one is after the Monday night game. Alex Barth posted Mike Vrabel's message to the Patriots heading into the bye week. Quote, "We're not done. We're not satisfied. Champions are never satisfied," unquote. So after the Giants preseason game, August 24th, Mike Vrabel is telling everybody, we are so far from being where we need to be. And even before the regular season kickoff, Mike Vrabel had multiple quotes that tried to temper expectations. And several of the beat writers wrote stories at the time about how it felt like the team was trying to slow people's roll and say, you know, we might not be as good as some think we're going to be, especially early on. Then you fast forward after beating the Giants, Mike Vrabel is talking about going into the bye week and stressing that we're not done, we're not satisfied, and says champions are never satisfied. It certainly feels like as the season has gone along, not only have I changed my expectations, and not only have you changed your expectations, but it feels like the head coach has changed his expectations. And I think that's all fair. I think all of us should be changing our expectations. You're 11-2. You're the number 2 seed in the AFC. You have a chance to be the 1 seed. You have a chance to win the AFC East against the Buffalo Bills. Week 15. Who thought that was going to be a thing? But as we learn more and as we see more, we can certainly change our expectations. And it certainly feels like Mike Vrabel is doing that. The number one indicator to potential is Mike Vrabel's comments. Mike Vrabel is not the type of head coach who's going to go out there and just blow smoke. He's not going to sit there and crown his team champions. He's not going to bring up the word champions unless he feels like they have at least an outside shot of being a champion, whether that's a divisional champion, a conference champion, or the champion of this year's NFL. Mike Vrabel's not going to go out there and just flap his gums for no good reason. As a matter of fact, Mike Vrabel has a master's degree in handling expectations. We've seen that. We've seen early in the year when the Patriots were getting hot, Mike Vrabel would try to calm people down. So when he goes out there and he talks about not being satisfied and champions are never satisfied, that absolutely means something, because the number one person we need to listen to when they talk about what this team can ultimately do is the head coach. He has the finger on the pulse. So why have expectations changed? Why are we here? Well, the easy thing to say is Drake Maye. Drake Maye's trajectory has been accelerated and I think has gone even higher quicker than we thought it would. And so now when you look at Drake Maye and you're not questioning, oh, well, can he find that top 10 quarterback range by the end of the season? Instead, you're talking about front runner of the MVP. And obviously Matthew Stafford had quite a day against the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday. But if you look at Drake Maye and you say he is the front runner, as I believe he is, well, if you have a legitimate top quarterback, you always have a shot. You always have a legitimate shot to go on a deep run. And speaking of the quarterback, Mike Vrabel had a lot to say about Drake Maye after the Giants game. Greg Bedard wrote this: how good has Maye been? Even Vrabel spoke highly of him after the game when I asked the coach about his quarterback's performance. Here's what Mike Vrabel said. Quote, I think he's realizing what he can be and what the impact that he makes on this offense in being the conductor. I think that he challenges himself as well as his coaches, just being able to not get rattled and escape. Then when we do have time and he sees a guy win, he puts the ball in a great spot for Kyle Williams to make a huge play or Kayshon Boutte down in the red zone. A lot of third down conversions. So again, very appreciative that he's our quarterback, unquote. And Greg Bedard writes, with Vrabel, praise for a really good player is hard to come by, especially a quarterback. So for Mike Vrabel to speak that way of Drake Maye, basically it was him zipping down his red vest and revealing one of those I love Drake Maye t-shirts you see in the stands at Gillette. So not only has the head coach seemingly changed his expectations for this football team, he has certainly changed the expectations for his quarterback. And it's almost as if if you listen close enough or you read the words carefully enough, that Mike Vrabel's starting to feel really good about this team, where it's at and where he thinks it could be. And it goes back to everything I've said over the past number of years talking about the NFL. There is a very slim difference between team number 6 and like team 12, 15. There's a very slim difference in the NFL between those teams. Usually you go into a season and you have 5 top-tier teams that are the contenders. And you go into the season and you usually have about 4 or 5 teams that are at the very bottom. They're in the basement. They don't have much of a chance. And then you've got that big fat middle of 20 to 22 teams every year that are battling. And it doesn't take a lot to move up from team, 20 to 15, from 15 to 10. Now, it takes a lot what the Patriots have done, going from one of those very bottom teams to one of the top teams. That takes a lot. But when you look at just the differences between these teams in the league, if you fight and you play hard and you don't have any letdowns, you take care of the football for the most part, you have a quarterback playing great, you have a chance to win every week. When you have Drake Maye and you have your defense playing as well on third down as they have played, you have a chance pretty much against anybody. And then you also look at the AFC in a down year. Kansas City is not who we thought they would be. Cincinnati, thanks to another significant Joe Burrow injury, is not where we thought they would be. Baltimore is not nearly as good as we thought that they would be. Even Buffalo, even though they survived Cincinnati in snowy Buffalo on Sunday, is not as good as they have been. So you start to combine all of that. Great quarterback play, great third down play, playing hard and fighting and having no letdowns. The AFC, your conference, in a down year. You add all those different elements together, and what you have is a team that has exceeded expectations and a coach who has clearly changed his tune about this team, going back from right before the season to right before the bye. And that is a very good thing. Speaking of Drake Maye's raw talent has always been clear, but thankfully, Mike Vrabel and company knew he could not do it alone. That's next as we continue with today's episode of Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app, the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views, and alerts for teams and matches make it easy to grab tickets the moment they drop instead of missing out. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets in every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, Game Time. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every single highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, like a receiver getting hot, a defense tightening up, or the momentum flipping after a turnover. And FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up, and you can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. I mean, it keeps you locked into every single solitary snap, every single solitary drive, and every single solitary possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit this website, FanDuel.com, and place your NFL live bets all season long. Again, it's FanDuel. The game moves fast, and guess what? So can you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. I appreciate every single one of you. Before the 2024 draft, there were some people talking about this Drake Maye versus Mac Jones thing. I found it absolutely freaking ludicrous. They're nowhere near the same quarterback. They have different talent levels. They have different traits, and it just wasn't close to me. Drake Maye has always been the guy that you watch and you say he's got tremendous raw talent, elite types of traits with the arm strength, the athleticism. He's bigger than Mac Jones. But as I talked about back in 2024 when I was doing my own thing on YouTube, you had to support Drake Maye, unlike you did with Mac Jones. I thought you absolutely gave Mac Jones no chance with the offensive line you put in front of him, the play callers, yada, yada. And what we have, when you go back to this past offseason, you just have a number of great decisions considering the quarterback and supporting the quarterback. You start with the offensive coordinator. Josh McDaniels was the perfect pick. He was the right guy at the right time for the right reasons. And when you look back at the other offensive coordinator candidates, man, oh man, is it clear the Patriots made the right move. According to reports, the three finalists, quote unquote, for the Patriots OC job were Josh McDaniels, Nick Caley, and Grant Udinski, who's in Minnesota. And the Josh McDaniels, Drake Maye union has been nearly perfect. Check mark. The offensive line. We don't have to remind all of you how bad the offensive line was in 2023 and in 2024. You had to rebuild this offensive line. And just look at what this front office did, led by Mike Vrabel in the offseason. You draft Will Campbell 4th overall. There were some questions. Oh, the arm length, the T-Rex jokes. Well, you know what? Will Campbell, according to Pro Football Focus, has been the 31st best offensive tackle in football. And you might sit there and go, well, that's not good, 31st. Don't forget that there's 64 offensive tackles in football. And it's really been Will Campbell's run blocking that has held him back, according to the Pro Football Focus grades, if you want to look at that, because Will Campbell is 19th. He's a top 20 tackle in all of the NFL in pass blocking, pass protection. So all in all, at 21 years old, I think we should all be pretty happy about what Will Campbell has done this season. He's not perfect. He hasn't been perfect, but he's still young, and he has been at least slightly above average at left tackle. That's a very good start. Then you went out and you signed Morgan Moses, who is the 33rd overall tackle, according to Pro Football Focus. Solid pass blocking. He has been very, very good in the run game. You look at his leadership. Morgan Moses has been a find. Garrett Bradbury. He's been at least an average level center this season. I don't think he's been great. He got off to a hot start. He has kind of, I don't want to say petered out since then, but he has not been as effective over the past, month and a half, but still he has been at least an average center, and he's been much better pass blocking than I think all of us anticipated. Jared Wilson, shaky, but showing improvement at left guard, learning a new position for all intents and purposes at the NFL level. Then you look at the skill positions, wide receiver. Stephon Diggs has been awesome. His mentorship, he has been a big play guy, as we've talked about all season long. He has been the security blanket for Drake Maye on 3rd and 4th down. Mike Giardi recently at Boston Sports Journal before the Giants Monday night game wrote about this at BSJ. On Stephon Diggs, he wrote, a defensive coach told me, quote, every young quarterback needs a receiver with this type of profile. Diggs has seen every coverage and played in just about every situation. He's not 2021 Diggs, but he's still good, smart, a technician, and we know he's a competitor. By the way, Mike Giardi wrote that Drake Maye has an 81.3% completion percentage targeting Diggs. And again, that's before the Giants game. It was 61 catches on 75 targets. After the Monday night game, it is now 64 receptions on 79 targets, which is still 81%, which is pretty ridiculous. And Stephon Diggs just brings swag to the position. He brings swag to the wide receiver room. Then you went out and you signed Mac Hollins, who has been very productive. Already his second best season in the NFL as a wide receiver. He has brought that positive, optimistic, forward-looking vibe to not just the wide receiver room, but the team. He is a willing blocker in the run game. So you added Stephon Diggs, you added Mac Hollins. Both of them have been very good. Both of them have exceeded their own expectations, I would imagine, and have certainly exceeded our expectations. Then you drafted TreVeyon Henderson and Kyle Williams to add that explosivity element to the offense, and we have certainly seen that come alive over the last month or so. And then you just look at the overall offensive coaching staff. Tight ends coach, passing game coordinator, Thomas Brown, helping with this offense. There's no doubt you can see week in and week out the influence that Thomas Brown has brought to this offense with Josh McDaniels, all those West Coast Sean McVay elements that we see. Todd Downing, wide receivers coach. No longer do we have wide receivers running into each other, the bad spacing. Great job by him. Ashton Grant, the young quarterbacks coach, by all accounts, a very young, but also a very smart assistant and somebody that reportedly over the past couple of weeks, teams around the NFL are looking at him and saying he could end up being a head coach someday down the road. And then the offensive line stuff. We already talked about the O-line, but you brought in Doug Marrone. You brought in Jason Hotaling. So, I mean, you look across the board, the offseason, it was full of great decisions to support your quarterback. And so many of them have worked out, from Josh McDaniels all the way down to Jason Hotaling on the coaching staff. The O-line, the guys you brought in, the guys you drafted, the skill position players you brought in via free agency, the guys that you brought in via the draft with their explosive ability. It's all working, and it has helped Drake Maye make this leap. He's not doing it alone. Now, a lot of the credit certainly goes to Drake Maye, but he has certainly had help. He has been supported, and that is due to a very, very good 2025 offseason that was no doubt, a commitment to your young quarterback. All right, that wraps up, he meant to say, this edition of Locked On Patriots. Thank you for making us your first listen and for being an everydayer. Reach out to me on Twitter at NickC Radio. Don't forget to throw a comment in on the YouTube channel. Hit that like button and subscribe. Also, did Locked On Patriots make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we will drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. Have a fantastic day, and we will talk to you tomorrow.